Hey everybody, today's going to be a slightly different video, a little bit different than sort of the B-roll voiceover that I've been doing lately. Want to take an opportunity to talk to you guys about the new Fujifilm X-H2, which I was really lucky to get. I know it's really hard to find anywhere right now. I happen to be lucky and find it in a local camera store. So this video is going to kind of be some first impressions on the camera, as well as kind of how I'm feeling about the transition from Canon to Fuji. I am going to be trading in all Canon gear in the interest of this Fuji camera, and I'll be talking a little bit about why, but also getting into that in another video. So I think first impressions right out of the box were just how great this body is. The grip is so deep. I'm looking at myself on the screen here. I'm shooting on the X-T30. There's a little ridge right here that just lets your finger rest really nicely and touch this function button that's back here. The rest of the buttons are also really easy to reach, and I just feel like the grip is deeper than the R6 or the other Canon cameras that I had, so I'm really impressed by that. Of course, I do miss the dials of the XT series, but I am really enjoying all the custom function settings that are available here. Having 7 different modes that I can put a film simulation or video settings on, I think is going to be really helpful. I was also a little nervous about just using third-party glass on the 40 megapixel sensor because of that list that Fuji announced for the 40 megapixel sensor. I gotta say, this 23 millimeter 1.4 for Viltrox, it's performing great. I mean, the autofocus seems to be on point. I don't have another Fuji lens to compare it to yet. I have one coming in the mail, so I will do a video on that. But so far, I mean, even with third-party lens, this is leaps and bounds different than the X-T30 that I'm shooting with, the X-T3, and those were decent. But this is just, you can feel that it's a modern autofocus system. They've really stepped it up. I was a little worried about the stack sensor versus the 40 megapixel sensor. As much as I wanted 40 megapixels, I was concerned that I was going to be giving something up with autofocus. Let me just reassure you that I don't think you are. I mean, I'm sure that you are a little bit, you know, if you're doing wedding processionals or, you know, a lot of video where there's going to be a lot of tracking and motion. I could see where the X-H2 makes a lot of sense, the 2S. But the 40 megapixels wins out for me. And I think this brings me to kind of my feeling on other brands right now. You cannot get this package for this price with any other brand. And I think that's the reason why I've always loved Fuji, and that's the reason why I'm transitioning back. But they also finally are making bodies that feel like they compete. So, you know, I don't think it's about APS-C versus full frame anymore. I really don't. I think it's about the technology in the body. 40 megapixel sensor, modern autofocus system, strong battery life. I've been using this for, I think, 5 days. And it's not been 5 days straight, but I have 4 bars left on the battery. It's again, leaps and bounds improvement. The flip out screen is going to be awesome. The 8K video. I mean, these are all things that, you know, oftentimes cameras at this price point are crippled with not having all of those features. And I think that's something that's really great about Fuji. The other thing is just the overall lens selection. There are third-party lenses, which, you know, I've talked about how it really bothered me that Canon wasn't doing that. With the RF system anyway. But then also I think, you know, just the quality of glass, one of their best lenses, the 50 millimeter 1.0, I've heard is one of the best lenses anyway. I have it in the mail. That is a fraction, like a third of the price of Canon's best glass, which I guess you could arguably say is the RF 85 millimeter 1.2. A fraction. And again, you know, you shoot this with a flash, you shoot this in good lighting, you're not going to have any problems. I also think the big value prop for Fuji is the film simulations. You know, being able to kind of shoot in JPEG really addresses some of the concerns that people have about, you know, using Lightroom for the worms and the artifacting and all of that. I do think that mitigates that, but also, you know, there are alternatives and there are ways to get around that. So I just want to address all of those things. I think probably to my past self, because these were all concerns that I had when I moved to Canon that I'm no longer concerned about. Generally speaking, if you are concerned about choosing the X-H2s versus the X-H2, I only use the 2s in-store, an in-store model, but I think the 40 megapixel X-H2 for $500 less is an excellent buy, and I would highly recommend it at this point. I'm not concerned about portraiture, studio shoots. If I were to start doing weddings again, street photography, printing out these images is going to be a huge thing. The colors and the ability to have the film simulations, these are all benefits, but I think this is a great choice for anyone looking to kind of get into the system. I'm very curious what they do with the X-T5, and I'll be covering that as it comes out. Rumor has it it's coming out in November, and that's going to have the same sensor. This is the other thing about Fuji. I can't imagine that they would make it pretty much the same just with the dials and no battery grip, but they might. And that's the cool thing, you know, this X-T30 that I'm shooting with was basically an X-T3, but smaller. So, I mean, it could happen. And I think that's what's really cool about the offerings from Fuji these days. So with that, I'm going to end this video before it gets too long, but I just wanted to give you some first impressions and some hands-on. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave any comments or questions that you might have below, and I'll cover them in future videos. I will definitely be, you know, showing off the lens selection, talking a little bit about letting go of Canon and kind of any of the lenses I'll miss there, and a lot of other things. So be sure to subscribe below as well. Thanks again for watching, and I will talk to you soon.